This episode is brought to you by Pepsi Wild Cherry. Pepsi Wild Cherry is bursting with delicious cherry flavor and a sweet, crisp taste that gives you more to go wild for. Getting wild may look different these days, but whether it's opting for a solo Friday binge watch or a big night out, everyone can indulge in their wild side with Pepsi Wild Cherry. Also available in Zero Sugar. So grab a Pepsi Wild Cherry and get wild.
Lucky Land Casino, asking people, what's the weirdest place you've gotten lucky?
Lucky? In line at the deli, I guess?
Aha, in my dentist's office. More than once, actually.
Do I have to say?
Yes, you do.
In the car before my kids' PTA meeting.
Really?
Yes.
Excuse me, what's the weirdest place you've gotten lucky?
I never win and tell.
Well, there you have it. You can get lucky anywhere, playing at LuckyLandSlots.com. Play for free right now. Are you feeling lucky? No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. 18+. Terms and conditions apply. See website for details.
With Lucky Land Slots, you can get lucky just about anywhere.
Dearly beloved, we are gathered here today to... Has anyone seen the bride and groom?
Sorry, we're here. We were getting lucky in the limo and we lost track of time.
No, Lucky Land Casino, with cash prizes that add up quicker than a guest registry.
In that case, I pronounce you lucky.
Play for free at LuckyLandSlots.com. Daily bonuses are waiting. No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. 18+. Terms and conditions apply. See website for details.
What's your name, and can you explain a little bit about how you got into the martial arts?
Well, my name is Pierre Hartmann, and I got into martial arts when I was 15, 16. And I started with Jiu-Jitsu, not Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, actually Japanese Jiu-Jitsu, right? And after that, I moved down to Geneva, and I started with Yosikan Budo, is a French-Japanese style somehow, kind of modern style, and then switched on into, I did judo, by the way, same time. Had a good judo teacher at the time. And then I went on in Wing Chun Gung Fu in Germany. I went up to Germany in 81 to study Wing Chun Kung Fu for 1 year, like 8 hours a day workout from Monday to Thursday. Had to move back to Switzerland to work, to make my living for the week after. And it went on for that time, and 5-6 more years, I just kept on going, doing Wing Chun. And at the same time, I was lucky to run into a guy who was working similar to what Jesse did already. He was a street fighter, and I switched to his kind of stuff and tried to work on what he gave me. And he was actually my coach. He was my coach for many years.
And when is the first time you met Jesse Glover?
Okay, I met Jesse Glover first time in 91 in Seattle. And I was lucky to get to run into him through some friend who knew Jesse Glover. So that was in 91, yes.
And I know you studied a little bit with Ed Hart. Was it with him first, or?
Right, I studied with Ed Hart because Jesse wouldn't let me into his school first. When I met Jesse said, okay, you go to Ed first. He didn't want to let me train at his stuff in his own school, which wasn't a public school. And so I went to Ed, and I was surprised what I saw. Very simple, very direct. And then the year after, when I came back to Seattle, he let me in. Finally, Jesse let me in.
Can you explain who Ed Hart was?
Okay, Ed Hart was Jesse's roommate and his friend, very close friend, became Bruce Lee's second student because Ed Hart was a boxer, a street fighter, and he was curious about Jesse's workout with Bruce. And one day he came up and said, hey, I'm interested to see that, but can I meet this guy, right? Because Jesse always talked about this guy, Bruce Lee, right? And then that what happened. And one day, then Jesse asked Bruce, could I bring Ed Hart in? Maybe, oh yeah, okay, sure. And then, yeah.
What was the difference between Ed Hart's teaching and Jesse's teaching?
Very good question, but very balanced. Ed Hart's teaching was very, very technical. He could explain you the smallest detail about how his stuff, he called his stuff, right, was built. Very technical, right? But Jesse's stuff was hard workout. Very, very hard workout. But the two gave kind of good balance to someone who wanted to get into New Classical Kung Fu.
So Jesse was a judo champion, and I think Ed Hart was a boxing champion, was he? Was he a professional boxer?
Yes, Ed Hart was a professional boxer, and he had to stop boxing because he got headaches all the time after fights. And he was also a street fighter. He had a terrible punch. He knocked out people in bars and stuff like that. He was terrible, right?
And Jesse Glover was also a bouncer one time, wasn't he?
Yeah, Jesse Glover was, he was working as a bouncer, and apparently his presence was like very, was calming down people, you know, in bars and stuff. He never really had important encounters, as I know.
Why did you feel you needed to train with Jesse Glover?
Good question. I wanted, when I went in Germany in 81, 82, Jesse, that was when Jesse came the first time over to Europe. Kernsberg, the guy in Germany, is very well known for Wing Chun. He invited Jesse Glover first time in Germany. And they had a seminar on a weekend, but I couldn't stay for the weekend. I had to go back to work. I went back to Switzerland to work to make my living. But then when I came back, everyone was talking about Jesse Glover. Hey, you know, this guy, blah, blah, blah. So, okay, I was interested, you know, I wanted to know more about this guy because I was always searching. So, and that's when I decided to find him in Seattle. I went to the States. Oh, that was the reason I went to the States also.
And what was he doing prior to working out with Jesse Glover? What style was he doing?
I was doing Wing Chun and all the stuff I did before. I gave me some background in terms of fighting. I also in the ring and did some kind of full contact and judo. And what I saw in Wing Chun, it was very traditional, but I wanted to find out how to get further. And my coach I had at that time, he showed me his own stuff, his own stuff, which was kind of very liberal too, very street fighting. And Jesse was actually going further that way, even more into intense search of real fighting, self-defense. And that's what I wanted to do. But I had no idea when I came to Seattle what was waiting for me and how things were on, right?
So when did you start with Jesse exactly? What time?
Well, I started in I think it was end of 91, because I came same year twice. In 91 I really started with Jesse first time.
And who introduced you finally to Jesse in person?
I was introduced to Jesse through my friend Charles, who runs a bike shop in Seattle. And by chance, I went to that bike shop with a friend at the time. We went into that bike shop for some reason. And then she went to the guy and said, hey, this is Pierre doing martial arts. You know, and the guy said, oh, okay, doing martial arts, good, you know. And okay, and then, well, why don't we talk about martial arts later on? See, when he closed his shop down, we went for a drink, and then we were talking about martial arts. And I came up with that important question, if I only could find Jesse Glover, because that means when I came to the States in 82, I was searching Glover. That time, no internet, nothing. And I couldn't find this guy until 91. Can you imagine that? And I came several times to Seattle.
And when did you stop with Ed Hart, or did you carry on training under Ed Hart and Jesse together?
Yes. I went to Ed Hart's place and I went to Jesse, but we had different places and different schedules too. You know, Ed Hart, he wouldn't sleep at night. He would get up like 6 p.m., something like that. And I went to see him, and then we started training up to 2, 3 o'clock in the morning.
And what was your first experience with Jesse Glover?
Oh yeah, I will never forget this. The first time when I was at Ed, he came in later because he usually gave classes later on. He came in, sitting on his couch, he got up, okay, let's stick. Okay, and then he goes, shit, there's nothing there. I said, what do you mean? It's nothing. Yeah, but I didn't know. How would I know, right? And then he started explaining me, okay, now pressure this, pressure there, blah, blah, blah. I never felt anything similar before because the Wing Chun was not related on that much pressure, right? He explained to me what Bruce used more pressure and he used even more pressure, right? Twice or 3 times more. And that was my experience with him. And I never forget about that moment. Suddenly he came in with 1 punch. I'm lucky that he never really punched. He stopped about this in front of my chest. I could feel the wave of power, speed. It was a terrible feeling. And I was so glad it didn't went through.
And that was something you never felt before?
Something I never felt before. Pressure and all that, never felt before. It was completely new. Also the structure of his fighting art, which is completely different. You cannot compare the non-classical Kung Fu to anything else. It is so very different.
And when did you get into Steve Smith stuff?
Okay, so I have to add first to your question, when do I get to Steve stuff? That was in 98. But before that, 97, I brought over Jesse Glover the first time to Switzerland. And then every year I brought him over like maybe 20 times altogether. First time Wolfgang came over as his assistant. Second time he couldn't. He brought over Steve Smith as his assistant. And that's when I made him.
And what impressed you about Steve Smith?
He didn't impress me at all first because he could hide his stuff, what he was really doing. He was hiding it perfectly. I underestimated him actually, and I apologized many times to Steve, said sorry about this, but this is not, usually I never underestimate anybody, but he was a good player.
Is that the first time you touched Steve Smith's hands?
Yeah, later on, before Jesse and Steve went back to Seattle, Steve came to me because I was curious, I said, how do you do this? Because I saw 2 moves, I said, wait a minute, can I feel that? And then I felt like, wow, that's a completely different feeling I got there. Never, ever felt something like that.
So it was completely different. It was a contrast from Jesse Glover.
Exactly, yes. But I never imagined that there is a link somehow. And at that time, I wasn't ready for that.
And who told you about Fook Yeung? Was it Steve?
Steve told me about Fook Yeung. He explained who Fook Yeung was and how long he trained with him and under him. And told me interesting stories about Fook. About his style, where he came from, what his stuff came from. Very unusual.
Did you get a chance to meet Master Fook Yeung?
No, unfortunately, never met Fook Yeung. He died in 2000, I think. Yeah, age of 98 or 99 years old. But I never met him. No.
Do you know any stories about Bruce Lee and Fook Yeung?
Yeah, there's some stories about which I knew through Steve Smith. That Fook, when Bruce came to Seattle, so Fook took care about Bruce Lee, right, when he arrived in Seattle, and they went to Oakland, and it was I think it was his uncle, right, and then Bruce came up to Fook and said, "Hey, okay, let's play a little bit in sticking," right? He wanted, he was curious, so, and then they start sticking, and Bruce. He was frustrated because he couldn't get through. And he thought, wait a minute, there's something different, right? How come? And blah, blah, blah. Then he was curious enough to ask Fook if he can start, if Fook would teach him. And then the story went on.
Did Jesse mention any stories about Bruce Lee and Fook Yeung?
Not really. I don't know much about between Fook and Bruce. I know Jesse knew Fook. They met a few times, but I don't know more what happened there and how they met.
Did Jesse Glover train under Fook Yeung a little bit?
I think they exchanged little things, but not more than that.
And what did Jesse Glover have to say about Fook Yeung?
A very interesting question. And what Jesse Glover said about Fook Yeung, he said, well, this guy's all over the place. He was, because Fook was so fast, he was moving like a ghost. There we go back to the ghost Kung Fu. That's where it comes from, right? That's what Jesse said. This guy's all over the place.
So did Jesse find him difficult to handle?
I don't know about this. I guess so, because Fook didn't give him anything where Jesse could get on, right? But Jesse, he would going forward and smash the guy. But I don't know in terms how far they went in terms of exchanging things.
What was Fook Yeung's background in terms of martial arts?
He was an opera player, as I know from Steve. I have to mention that all this, the sources I know about Fook are coming from Steve. I never met Fook, so Steve told me about this. When they traveled from village to village in China, they had some challenges with Kung Fu guys, different Kung Fu styles. So they had to prove what they were doing, and they wanted to fight, they wanted to compare. And so, because they were always traveling, they always came into new with new styles, Kung Fu styles. And so Fook added more and more and more, and threw away a bit what didn't work, probably like Bruce did. But he got over 160 styles, different styles of Kung Fu, and maybe master about 100 styles. And then he came out with the word like, hey, it's all the same. So it was not a style anymore, it was his stuff.
So it was Master Fook Yeung's expression of all the styles he learned.
I know he learned Hung Gar, he learned Tai Chi, he was especially doing Tai Chi a lot. Internal, but also external, and praying mantis, very involved, and other styles I don't know.
Do you know who Fook Yeung's master was?
I guess different masters, I don't know. I don't know.
Where do you see martial arts going in the future, Pierre?
I don't know if it's in a good way. I am frustrated that people don't want to spend enough time to learn, really going deeply into material like traditional arts, because the efficiency of the martial art, and real martial art it depends on how deep you go into the stuff, right? And today, problem MMA, Krav Maga, this is kind of scratching the surface. People don't have time to spend energy into traditional stuff. And it's a fast-living world in the martial arts too. It's based on physical exchange, nothing more than that.
So traditional martial arts is dying a little bit, you think?
I think it's dying for two reasons. First, it's dying because it's overshadowed by the MMA and all the stuff, but also the efficiency of the traditional martial arts are mostly lost today, because they switched into complete different directions. And the basic idea of a martial art is a martial art. It's to fight, in a war. And today it's combat. It's more like entertainment.
So, do you think the attitude's changed towards martial arts in general?
What I changed, martial arts?
The attitude of learning martial arts.
Okay, the attitude learning martial arts is related on fashion today, like without criticizing any art. There are very good elements in everything. Depends how the stuff is taught. When I see Krav Maga today, why? It's coming from the Green Berets, actually. It's not even Israeli stuff. Originally it comes from the Green Berets. Anyway, but they got a kind of modern way to create drills, okay? But the problem most of the time is the drills, they are not always working in a real situation. Either you have drills and you count on it, and it may work, may not work. But there's a very big difference when I come back to the non-classical Kung Fu. People always ask me, yeah, non-classical Kung Fu, it's a bit like this, it's a bit like that. So no, it's completely something else. It has nothing to do with this kind of stuff. And that's what people don't get. People are related on visual moves, but not in sensing. Once you try to feel, oh, okay, then you may understand things, right? But people are not ready for that. Visual thing, YouTube, all that today, that counts.
Do you think traditional forms and katas are important?
Steve, I think visual things and katas are important. When I come back to Steve, what he said, yes, it is important, but it has to be added to your personal training. And I think it's the last resort of a kind of training you use if you don't have a partner. But you cannot only do forms and think that this will work in a real fight. You need both, right? You need practice, real situations, and forms is okay, but you have to keep a good balance between these two.
And can you explain your position in the Infinity?
Okay, my position, my status in Infinity today, well, Steve gave me a 4 black sash at the moment, and this is not important to me in terms of saying, hey, I got this and that, no certificate. It's because it's a process, and actually I'm the one in Europe who can teach Infinity officially. That's what Steve says, and I'm glad that Steve gave me that openness to let me express myself today.
Are people interested in what you're doing now?
Not really. That's kind of frustrating because people don't get it. You know, when I come up to you and go with these moves and stuff, they think, oh yeah, it's all that, kung fu crap. Unless they feel what I'm gonna do, they will, oh okay, now I see. But they cannot. In order to make that work, you need all the process, through all the processes, right? You cannot start with Infinity just like that, because you have to have something. That's why the non-classical Kung Fu to me is the best basic idea, the very direct part, and then options in terms of adjusting.
So did Steve Smith use the non-classical Gung Fu as well to get to where he is now?
Yeah, also, non-classical Kung Fu to Steve was an important step in his life, in his journey too, because when he made Jesse, he was kind of surprised what Jesse could do, right? Because Jesse would go through the room, he would chase him, right? And Steve thought, wait, I have to change something, right? That's when Steve changed his stuff a little bit, which made him way, way better. And these two were kind of completing themselves in a perfect manner, right? And today, that's what I think, the link between non-classical Kung Fu and what I got from Steve Smith, Infinity, what I call it, it's like, it's internal and external, and you can switch from one to the other. Mostly the guys are internal or external, but can you switch between those two?
And sometimes you call it ghost Kung Fu. Can you explain that to us, please?
Okay, ghost Kung Fu, we call it ghost Kung Fu because if you master the angles on a guy, you master the sensing, the pressure, the footwork, you will be able to play with the guy in terms of faking him out, you make him think you're there and you're not, because you switch already. You anticipate actually his moves, his possibility, what and how he can move, and you know that. So you play on that. You give him false pressure, false visual ideas, visual directions with the hand, with body language, body movements, and you switch. You always adjust, and it could be like elements like air, there's nothing there, right? This, or water, or you come back with a broken rhythm, like BAM! Suddenly, fire.
Can you explain about the elements? I mean, you talk about fire, air, for the people who don't understand.
Okay, yeah, the Non Classical Gung Fu is the best idea. Make people understand what fire means. It's like power, right? Direct power with pressure sensing, direct to the target. And then you get the element, the water element, which is more comfy. It's like it's like water, right? You follow the target, you follow his opponent arm, you follow his body in terms of get him on your advantage, of course, you get him from another angle, right? And then you get the air. Air is like frame shifting, like you make him think that you're there, but you switch. It's your body move. Your body is moving in different directions. This is moving that direction, body is moving in another direction. That could be the lower body and the upper body. So between these elements, and there is also earth, right? And like Jesse was really, really strong on earth. It's way down. Gravity is important too. So if you can switch between these elements, that's what it's all about. But you have to have the timing, the direction, the right pressure, the right moment, the footwork.
Do you think Bruce Lee was influenced philosophically by Fook Yeung?
Oh, he was definitely influenced by Fook Yeung because his sticking already. He changed his sticking when he went, as I know, when he went back to Hong Kong, he could pass almost old guys through with his sticking, which he couldn't before. There were like 2 or 3 guys, Wong Chong Leung and these guys, they were really good. But then he could find, even with Yip Man, he could do way more things, right? And I don't want to go further than that, so I don't know really about it. But definitely Bruce changed. But I don't know how far he went into Fook Yeung's system. I think, that's my opinion, I think he was hiding what he knew. He was put that aside for his later years, which never came.
So you believe Bruce Lee hid away Fook Yeung because he didn't want anyone else to really get involved with Fook Yeung?
Yeah, I think Bruce didn't want to tell people too much about Fook because he was worried that people would go and search for Fook and try to get lessons from Fook, to train under Fook. And Yip Man was not really, that was okay because everyone knew, right? That's where he started from.
And what about a total beginner getting into Infinity, Fook Yeung, Yung Chung? Would it be easy for them?
For a beginner in general, Fook Yeung stuff, I see a problem with the structure, real fighting structure. You cannot learn swimming on a chair. You have to go into the water, right? But once you know how to swim, you can go back to the chair. You know what I mean? So that's exactly the problem. I was trying to teach the Yeung Chung system Infinity to some beginners, the public students. They were lost. And I was frustrated because I couldn't explain. And they wouldn't give me what I needed to show them. So it's a very vicious thing.
What would you recommend them to start first before they get into Infinity?
Punching, like Jesse's punching. Thousands of repetition of punch. Just natural mechanic moves to punch.
So what about footwork?
Okay, what about footwork? I would say, yeah, footwork is important, but if you talk about footwork, I want to add non-classical footwork is enough first, because it's related to the mechanics of punching and closing. That's enough. That's the basic to me. And because the footwork you use in Infinity is quite more complex, because it goes in different directions. It's based on the on waves, on S, on gravity. Not that simple.
Where are you heading with your martial arts, Pierre?
Oh, okay. I know my personal idea is to go on up to my last breath doing martial arts, and I'm lucky today that I have something which I can say works for me, effortless. When I get old, I think I can still use that stuff.
And how old was Fook Yeung when he passed away?
I think he was 99, if I'm not wrong, 99 years old when he passed away, yeah.
Was he able to use the stuff still?
Oh, of course. Of course he was old, but he was never there. I mean, you could hardly get on this guy, right?
And you mentioned he knew something about pressure points?
Yes, definitely. He did Qigong and he knew all this. He was also doing acupuncture, so he knew all these spots. It was amazing.
What was his profession? Was he a doctor or?
I don't know.
Was he an
acupuncturist?
Really.
Yeah, I mean, I knew he was into acupuncture, but I don't know how far he went into that, right? But I know he knew a lot about Qigong and acupuncture. He was really fond of that.
And where would you like to go with the Infinity? I mean, as far as the new generation?
I would say where I want to go with Infinity, I want to step back to the basics first. I want to remind them that I want to be sure that they don't lead them into illusion of some stuff. That's the most difficult thing, I think. Go back to the roots, start from there again, and then it changes again. But you cannot burning steps and going too fast and you have to be very careful. That's one of my challenges, what I want to go for.
And how big is it at the moment in Europe?
You mean how big the Infinity in Europe? Not much, because no one knows about it. Because they're not curious enough. There is similar things like Systema, but it's not the same. It's like, people always copy, it's like this, and sometimes I show something, it's like this. No, it's not like this, right? And it's kind of frustrating. You cannot really express yourself. They wouldn't believe you really, right? Unless they really go for it.
Any last words, Pierre, before we wrap up the interview? Any last words you want to say?
Oh, okay. My last words for the interview, I say, I had a good time here in London again to show you guys some options. There's no reason I want to say to these guys, hey, look, you have to change things, right? They go on what they always did, but I want to just give them options, some ideas, and then they're going to play on that. It's a play. And I will go on that way. I will be sure that more and more, it's I say the third time I came back, and they're getting better, right? They understand better, they move better. It's great. I love it.
Okay, thank you very much, Pierre, for the interview.
Thank you, Seyfi. Thanks.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you.
Sports Social Podcast Network.
Hello, it is Ryan, and we could all use an extra bright spot in our day, couldn't we? Just to make up for things like sitting in traffic, doing the dishes, counting your steps, all the mundane stuff. That is why I'm such a big fan of Chumba Casino. Chumba Casino has all your favorite social casino-style games that you can play for free anytime, anywhere with daily bonuses. That should brighten your day a little. Actually, a lot. So sign up now at ChumbaCasino.com. That's ChumbaCasino.com.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. See terms and conditions. 18+.